everyone. Welcome once again to Inside Hollywood with Vince Minetti. I am your host today. Joining us from Los Angeles, he is an actor, producer. He's worked with such names as Will Smith. He was on Challengers, worked with Zendaya. Welcome to the show, Jake Jensen. How are you, Jake?
I'm good, and thanks so much for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Well, I want to thank also, real quick, host Stephen Coco for the introduction. And it's such an honor to have you on. And thank you, Steve, for the intro. Now, let's get into it. Now, you are, and I always say this every time I interview people from LA. I'm jealous, but you're from LA. Tell us a little about yourself and your background.
Well, I guess I can say I'm from LA. I've been here now 11 years, which is starting to feel like home. Originally from Park City, Utah, grew up at Sundance Film Festival in my backyard. So that's kind of, I think that planted a seed for me being interested in the entertainment industries. Sadly, we're losing Sundance, which I'm very sad about. But yeah, I've been in LA about 11 years, slowly building a career but it's had some great opportunities. Worked, as you mentioned, with Will Smith on King Richard, and then Zendaya and Josh O'Connor and others on Challengers. And then also producing and creating some of my own content now, which, as you know, as a filmmaker, that's can be very exciting, but also very challenging. But I'm enjoying that process as well.
I would agree. Yeah, it's very daunting, as they say, but it's very fulfilling. And, when you have that artistic sort of nagging feeling inside, you have to get it out somehow. So what initially drew you to the film industry?
There's always been this seed in my mind that I wanted to be an actor. Even though like I mentioned, that we had Sundance, in my backyard growing up, and I went to a lot of the films and things, I never really, there's nobody in my family is an actor. I didn't even know how to approach it. So I kind of put it off until I was an adult. And then finally, about 25, I was like, I have I want to be an actor. I better start pursuing it now. And things worked out that I was able to get a job in LA that could pay the bills, so I didn't have to be there without any form of support. But then also really, started training and taking classes and working with acting coaches and got my foot in the door, and with commercials, really initially print work and then commercials, and then it's just kind of built from there. But I think it was, and again, I don't even know where that seed was planted, but as long as I can remember, there's been that little like seed in my mind wanting to be an actor.
Now, how was it? Coming from Utah, how was it just getting there, arriving, being in, the Mecca, right? And to me, Hollywood, no matter, and obviously we're going through some tough times out there, but for me, it's always that shiny, that shiny palace on a hill for me. That it's still a place where there's still magic. There's a ton of history. Everything is just so, when you think Hollywood, it's an amazing, unique place. But how was it? Your first day, your first week there. Walk us through it.
Well, my very first audition in LA, my cell phone went off, and I basically was embarrassed and walked out the door. But, I'd done a little bit of work in Atlanta, a little bit of work. I'd booked quite a bit of work in Miami with commercials and print work. So I wasn't completely new to the industry, but I tell you, LA was just a completely different beast. I mean, there's so just I think the first audition I went to, there was a sign on the door that said there had been 3,000 submissions for that one job, and they were bringing in like 100 of us. And it just hit me. This is the Mecca, but also, where you've got to be really serious about this and know what you're doing. And I immediately went and signed up for workshops and classes and coaching because I just felt a little bit overwhelmed, to be honest, and that I've got to get some more training. I've got to meet people. I've got to work really hard at this because it's exciting, but also a little bit well, not a little, it's pretty overwhelming at first there.
Yeah, it certainly tests your mettle. So, and you're a very small fish in an ocean, and everybody's doing a thing where you're going to central casting. Everybody's trying to take a shot here. But you mentioned some things that were very important there. You were into training and coaching and taking classes, and you're going on audition. So right there, I could tell that you're putting in the work. You're taking it seriously. You're investing in yourself.
Yeah, I have a lot of actor friends that take different paths to break in the industry or to get. But for me, I think maybe this is my background as an athlete. I had always had coaching, so that was really helpful for me, and it still is. When I'm in LA, I work with an acting coach weekly, and for me, that constant training and working on the craft has been really. I enjoy it, but it also has been really important for my journey.
And So, okay, tell us about maybe some things you landed. We spoke about challengers. Like, tell us a little bit about that and working also with Will Smith. Walk us through some of that.
Yeah, I mean, the two biggest films that I booked just in terms of working with big name actors and things are tennis movies, which is interesting because I was a collegiate tennis player. My tennis background definitely helped with that. And so that was, a dream come true for me to work on tennis movies because that's my sport, that's my passion. But I think that's also, opened other doors to meet other filmmakers and directors and casting directors and it's ongoing. I mean, as you know, the industry, it's been a rough few years with COVID that, felt like I had quite a bit of momentum going and then COVID hit and it just, any momentum I had was stopped. And then, with the strikes and everything, it's been hard to get momentum going again. But I do think, that's if actors are anything, we're persistent and resilient. We have to be. And I think good things are coming, but it's definitely and not just in LA, probably other places too, but it's definitely been an interesting few years.
No doubt about it. But I do think that you're right. I think things are going to swing back in the right direction. It has to because, again, I mean, just the history and the amount of talent all in one place is something that we can't do without. What's the climate like now? What are you up to? What do you see? Like, if I'm a new guy and I'm getting there to LA, I'm a new guy or gal. What's and you want to get active in the industry? What recommendations would you give at this current time?
I think again, we always talk about networking, but I think even more important now is to try to find opportunities because with a lot of the auditions are still self-tape, so you're not in the room with casting directors. At least the first round, I think probably callbacks and chemistry reads are getting more and more in person, but you're not meeting actors at auditions, you're not meeting casting directors in person. So I think the more, just networking. I mean, I have a manager that is very good about inviting me to screenings of films and I'm a SAG actor, so I get certain number of events through SAG. And I think for me, it's just being willing to get out there to meet people, which my natural personality is I'm an introvert. So that's not easy for me. Walking in a room of 100 people, I'm much better like with small groups or one-on-one, but I have to do that just to meet people. And I'd much rather be on like a show like this than to walk in a room with 100 people I don't know. But I also know that's important to do. So I think, again, it sounds cliche, but being willing to step out of your comfort zone, no matter what that is, and be willing to put yourself out there, I think is huge.
Now, for those that may not know, so you have a manager. So tell us a little bit. What's the difference between a manager and an agent?
Yeah, at least for me, it was easier to get a manager initially than a TV film, what we call theatrical agent for anyone not knowing that. I got a commercial agent very quickly in LA, and I've had a couple different ones, but to get a theatrical agent without a lot of credits was very challenging. So my manager was really able to give me a lot more one-on-one direction in terms of which casting directors to try to set up meetings with or relationships with, getting in some doors that, and ultimately then he works really closely with my theatrical agent. So that I think a manager is more hands-on in building a brand and a career, and then the agent is really for submitting and negotiating contracts. So the jobs I booked, even if it's been my manager that's helped get me in the door, any contracts then go through my agent.
And is that how's that handled typically without giving out any personal information? Do the managers tend to work on a commission base or on a salary or it sounds like you should probably go after getting a manager first, but then how do they get compensated?
My manager and agent are both on a commission. So for any SAG jobs, it's 10%. I know there are managers that it's like a monthly retainer or a monthly fee, but I think fairly standard, at least in my experience and those that I know, it's a commission for both.
And do you have to have a little bit of a background or some credits under your belt before you go and try to seek out a manager? And what are they looking for?
Well, my manager, I know when he started, he had been in the industry for a long time, but was starting his management company. So that was a good time because we kind of could grow together. I know now he really is only looking for actors who are SAG, members of SAG or SAG eligible. So they have to be close to joining the union. So it really depends, I think, on the experience and level of a manager, where they're kind of at in their career. And I've been fortunate. I think I signed with him in 2018 Walter. So we've kind of grown together over the last time period. But I didn't have a lot of credits when I signed with him, but he was willing to help me develop and grow. So again, I think it really just depends where somebody's at in their career in terms of credits and things.
Well, great, but that's another tool in your arsenal. You're investing in yourself also by having a manager. That's great. All right, and what are we working on lately? You have anything cooking?
Well, this summer I have a writing partner in Mexico City, but she came to LA, so we worked together. We have a TV pilot that's kind of a satirical look at evangelical Christianity and country music. So it's set in Nashville, Tennessee. A retired baseball player joins an evangelical preacher, and they co-host a music slash religious show, and it's kind of a wild a satire look at country music and evangelical Christianity. So we have a pilot, we have a show Bible, we have all the materials in place now, just kind of figuring out where to pitch that. I think it's going to be, it's a 30-minute satirical kind of comedy. Looking forward to getting that out there. We originally wrote the lead roles for ourselves, but we're open to selling it as well. And then we're also working on a full-length feature film right now, which we're really excited about. So kind of loosely based on Richard Simmons, the fitness guru character. He passed, Richard Simmons passed away this year, but a very similar character to him who has these adopted, well, they're his nieces and nephews that are all adopted, and they enter this triathlon that's named after their uncle, and it's a kind of a comedic, but also heartfelt look at these siblings kind of uniting under this triathlon that they have to compete in Mexico. So definitely that's been kind of my focus this summer, is developing these scripts, and then looking forward to getting back more to auditioning this fall, and obviously moving into the end of this year, and then obviously always a kind of a reset button in January. But it's amazing how working on a couple scripts can take a lot of time, as you know, I'm sure. But that's been fun this summer to kind of put the creative energy into that.
Absolutely, it does. And the thing is too, I mentioned this when I told you I interviewed George Gallo, and he's same thing. And kind of made a remark also. These scripts sometimes you start in one direction, but they kind of take a life of their own, and then they turn into something completely different. It's almost like a supernatural experience. It's strange, but very cool, and at the same time.
Yeah, you're absolutely right with that.
So now, okay, you got the show Bible, you got all your materials for your pitch for your show. What do you do? I mean, is that something maybe you talk to your agent to try to shop around, or do you shop it around? What's the actual mechanics behind, now it's in final draft, it's in your hands. What do you do? Where do you bring it? Who do you bring it to?
This is the scary part now. The creative part was fun, but with the Marmouche, the other second coming, that's our pilot. We've worked on this for 5, 6 years. We feel the materials are really strong now. So absolutely, I think it's, again, getting out of your comfort zone, talking to everyone and anyone who's in the industry that might have a connection. The film script that we're working on, I feel like we're still got some drafts and work to do on it, and might do like a table. We did one table read, got a lot of good feedback, so we're going to keep redrafting that. But the pilot's pretty close to getting in front of the people we need to get in front of. I just don't know who those are yet. And so, yeah, as you know, it's not a straightforward always path to know how to get that out there. So we're brainstorming, and obviously, yes, I've had conversations with my manager and agent, but also, looking at production companies, looking at even some of the streaming platforms that might be interested in the type of content that we have. And, again, it's about connecting, and you just never know, that one connection but it's also super competitive. A lot of people are trying to get content made out there. So just pushing forward with it. I don't have a clear, plan for it right now. I mean, I have a plan, but doing a lot of networking.
Sure. I think that from when I talk to people out there in LA, and people in production, and from every facet of the industry, it's more like it could be the easiest thing or the hardest thing, and a lot of it has to do with relationships. The ironic thing is that, yeah, like you said, there's a ton of material, but then again, there's also a ton of material being, for lack of a better word, either commissioned or purchased or taken, because they don't want some other company to take it. So it's almost like the competitive thing, just so they have it, almost like option or scripts, they could sit on it and try to develop it. But there is, I noticed that there's a lot of people that have this sort of love-hate relationship with the streaming networks too, because it's like they kind of are, for better or for worse, they're kind of responsible for the demise of the big studios,
Yeah.
So I don't know. As a filmmaker myself, I am eager to, of course, you just want to put your stuff out there no matter who takes it. But at the same time, I want to see that return to the big, strong, healthy studios that, but that are given fair contracts out. Obviously, SAG and the WGA,
Yeah.
all the unions that are working so hard with great talent, because they absolutely deserve their fair share. So you want to see an equitable, sharing of power and resources. But as much as I love streaming networks, and I really do, I want to see that studio, sort of dominance come back in a way, in a more fair way.
Yeah, I would agree with you on that.
And also DVDs. I'm a guy that when I was like, I'm 46, but I grew up. You're talking about mid '80s, which to me was some of the best. '80s was such a great era.
Yeah.
And I would just beg my mom to take me to the video store and the cassettes, and you walk in, it's the big cardboard cutouts, and Teen Wolf is out, and it's just such a magical feeling, and I feel like the kids these days, they don't have that same beautiful benefit of just walking in and picking a movie and bringing it home.
No, I agree. I mean, some memories growing up is going down to we had a local video store, that we'd see what was coming and the big posters and everything. It was a lot of fun. It was a real, totally different era, but I'm glad I grew up with that. It was a lot of fun.
I'd like to see that return, but let's see what happens. Things change, but sometimes they come back. So, all right, what are some goals in the future? What can we look forward to in the next few years?
I think again, continuing to be a dream to see some of my own content out there on the screen. But I've always I love TV. Nothing against film, but I do love TV. So I'd love to have a series regular on a show. I think having that family that you work with, not necessarily week in and week out, but certainly having that is something that I've always wanted, and I have friends that have had that experience in my acting classes and things, and so that's kind of what I'm really pushing for right now. Again, I'm not going to turn down a film role, don't get me wrong, but I could really see myself on a recurring guest stars and then maybe developing into a series regular role. But I think that would be something I'd really like to experience as an actor in the next couple of years.
Well, I'm excited to see more of you. I encourage everyone to please visit you. I mean, I know you have your Instagram, which is very nice. You have a great Instagram account. Where else can we find you?
Well, IMDb, I'm on there as Jake Jensen. So that's a good place to keep up with my acting career. Instagram, I'm very active on there. Same handle for really all my social media, Facebook, Twitter. Well, I guess Twitter now, whatever, X. And then what's the TikTok, which I need to be more active on. But yes, Jake Jensen Media is my handle for all my social media.
All right, fantastic. Everybody's watching this. We will make sure we put links in the description box. And I encourage you to stay and follow him, follow his great work. And Jake, I can't thank you enough. It's been a great pleasure to have you on the show. I look forward to keeping an eye on you and maybe bring you back anytime you like. You're always invited back to let us know what you're up to and promote all your wonderful work. And again, thank you so much. Our guest has been Jake Jensen. And again, if you haven't already, please subscribe, check out Jake, and we'll see you again soon. Jake, thanks so much.
All right. No, I appreciate it, Vince. Thanks so much.
Take care.